Hey, MCE crew, we got a couple of things to talk about here. Number one, we want to talk about all of these billionaires that have been cashing in, okay? They have been selling stock over the past 8 months and really cashing out of the companies that they lead. What does that tell us? I'm going to tell you what I'm doing in light of what they're doing. Because, on this channel, we always try to learn from those who are where we want to be. And if people like these CEOs, we're talking about guys at the top of the pile here, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, guys like that, if they're making certain moves, then shouldn't we, kind of read the tea leaves and see what's going on there? We don't want to be left holding the bag, right? We're also going to talk about the requirements. You know the requirements I'm talking about. Those requirements that a certain president put out, said that you got to do something or else you're going to lose your job. Well, those requirements could be impacting the national security of the United States of America. And I'm going to explain how, because, again, you might think, well, what does national security have to do with money? Everything. Because if this nation isn't secure, then we certainly have more to worry about than our economy. And our economy certainly can take a hit, as it has in the past when we've been in the midst of certain types of conflicts. So let's get started, and let's talk about some of these very wealthy people, captains of industry, who are selling massive amounts of stock. Let's start with Satya Nadella. He is the CEO of Microsoft, and Mr. Nadella went in and he has sold $285 million in Microsoft stock. Not just any stock, but the stock of the company that he is the CEO of. I think that's significant. Now, do I think it's a lack of faith in the company? Not at all. I think that, as we will see with others, I think that what they're trying to do is get ahead of, the winds of change with regard to where this economy is going. There are certain macroeconomic principles that really don't give a damn what Joe Biden thinks or what Jerome Powell thinks. And Jerome Powell can say, as he did about a year ago, that inflation was not going to be realized. But we know that the macroeconomic principle of flooding the market with money is going to eventually give people a lot more money to spend. It's going to drive up demand, and that can lead to inflation. We also know that when you have an employment crisis where a lot of people, for whatever reason, are not returning to work and employers have to raise wages, we know that those increases will oftentimes be passed on to the consumer. So we have those pressures, and at the same time, we have a lot of difficulty of late getting merchandise to market, thanks to, all kinds of things that are going on off the coast of America. So we see that the CEO of Microsoft has gone in and he sold 840,000 shares of Microsoft just before Thanksgiving. And that netted him $285 million in proceeds. And that's according to a filing with the SEC. So this article here that I will link to says it makes sense that Nadella would take some of the money off the table. Okay, listen carefully. After all, Microsoft stock has been a stellar performer this year, soaring more than 50%. Home Depot is the only Dow stock that has done better. And they did better simply because there was a lot of money going into home improvement, because in 2020, there were a lot of people that were not going anywhere other than their home. So Home Depot reaped the benefits of that. So that's what he's doing. Then we've got Elon Musk, of course. He went out and he sold quite a few shares of his famous company, Tesla. And, he said, time for me to take some of this money off of the table. And we know Tesla has done very well of late. Okay, so what we're seeing is CEOs taking winnings off the table. They know that the market has done phenomenally as of late, and they're going ahead and taking some winnings off the table. I think that's very smart. But I also think because of the amount of CEOs that we are seeing do this, I also think that they understand that this economy is really facing some challenges going into 2022. And we're going to see a lot of that rear its ugly head. So you've got more than just the two I mentioned. You've got Mark Zuckerberg. He has sold $1.63 billion worth of Facebook stock since this November, last November. Since last November. He's actually probably sold more than that by this point. Also coming in, Jack Dorsey, he just stepped down as the CEO of Twitter, and he sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Twitter stock. We got some less famous names on here. Reed Hastings, he's the guy, the CEO of Netflix, has sold over $400 billion worth of that stock. So you've got some luminaries on here, some folk that, they know what's going on. Alex Karp, we talked about him. He's the CEO of Palantir, sold $232 million worth of that company's stock. So on and on and on. We've got a long list of people. So what am I doing? I'm doing the same thing they're doing. I'm looking at my portfolio and I'm taking winnings off of the table. So I've got an investment in Wells Fargo, okay, the bank. And I jumped into Wells Fargo when they started having difficulties with, being honest with people. And I said, you know what? They're going to fire some folk and they're going to get it together at some point. And well, year to date, the stock is up 60.8%. Okay, year to date. In the last 12 months, the stock is up 70.28%. I win. So I'm going to take some winnings off of the table. Enjoy those, did well. I'm going to stay invested in the stock. But we're going to take some winnings off of the table. Another stock that I may have talked to you about that I've invested in is JP Morgan. Been into JP Morgan for a minute. And this year, so far, in the last 12 months rather, they've done 32.65%. Year to date, they're up 26.19%. Now, look, I don't want to make it seem like I'm some, I'm channeling Warren Buffett, or maybe I am, because Warren is not right 100% of the time. I also am an investor in 3M. They produce a lot of stuff. 3M is actually not doing so hot for the year, but they pay a decent dividend. Year to date, they are down over a percentage point, but I'm staying with them because they're good dividend paying stock, and I believe there are better days ahead for that company. Okay, they've been struggling, but over time, stock is up 2,490%. So just gotta hang in there. I think 3M will be okay. All right, so that's what's going on. You might want to take a look at your portfolio and, maybe see if you can take some winnings off of the table. Don't get greedy, okay? Evaluate it based on your objectives and your due diligence, of course. But things don't go up forever. Things let off steam every once in a while. So when we have these opportunities to, actually realize gains and take them off the table, we should do that to the extent that it fits within our individual plan. Also notice or remember that there are capital gains taxes that would apply depending on how long you've held these stocks. So you've got to look into that as well. See how much of your winnings you're actually going to be able to keep and how much Uncle Sam will get to participate in your fortuitous move. All right, let's move on and talk about national security. Because again, when it comes to what's going on out here, the world is a dangerous place. That is true. I am not a fan of war, although I do understand that it is sometimes necessary, sadly, but it is sometimes necessary. The war we're trying to start right now in Ethiopia is not necessary. It's just more adventurism by, the Biden administration. I think that we should chill out with the war and save that for, the absolute most necessary cases. Like, I think World War II was one of those cases. Other than that, we need to really be judicious about who we, take to war. In any event, they want to do something up there because there's trouble in Ethiopia. But I'm a strong proponent for letting countries figure out what their own destiny is, okay, and not getting involved in the matters of countries that are private, because we certainly don't want that going on over here. But to the extent that we do have to be ready and possibly get into different conflicts or utilize our military in some way, we got 7,000 Marines who have not taken a certain medication, and it's past the deadline that they were ordered to take it. Now, I'm going to tell you why I think this threatens our national security, because if you're seeing this come out in the media, I think the actual figure is probably a lot higher. But it does behoove the Department of Defense and our country as a whole not to divulge the true figure, because that's a readiness issue. And it certainly would possibly expose us to some sort of opportunism by some other adversary. Okay, it says here 5% of active duty Marines have not gotten a certain medication. 5% is a big number. Okay, when you're talking about such an important organization, the mandate said that they needed to do it by the 28th. I'm recording this on the 30th. Some 95% of active duty Marines had received a certain medication by the deadline. Okay, so that's the number that's being put out there. 95% have it. We're 95% ready. I do hope that's true. I hope that we are 95% ready. Okay, I'm not going to argue with these Marines who decided not to do a certain thing, because at the end of the day, I believe that your human body is your sovereign property, and you should get to make decisions regarding it. And guess what? The courts agree with me so far, because they have been shutting down these requirements left and right. Now, I will say this. I really don't care what the courts do. At the end of the day, I agree with it. I like to see it. However, I'm not going to entrust my sovereign body to the courts. It's why I am, one of the many reasons why I'm not a criminal, because I don't want the justice system to have that type of purview and control over my sovereignty. So the courts can do whatever they want to with regard to this issue. But for me personally, I will continue to believe that I get to make the decisions one way or the other when it concerns my human body. And I believe you should be free enough to do the same. Okay, so that's what we got going on right now. I'm going to take some winnings off of the table. I really do hope that the United States Marines, I believe that they are ready to tackle any adversary that is out there threatening America. But I do also believe that just because you happen to be in the military, you should not necessarily lose the freedom over yourself to a great extent. And I know, this might conflict big time with the ethos of a military. I get it. GI, government issue. Okay, you lose a lot of your freedoms. A lot of people in the military say they are there to practice, to uphold democracy, not necessarily practice it. Okay, I get that. So it's a sticky situation. I err on the side of personal sovereignty. That's where I'm at. However you want to move, if you want to make a decision for or against when it comes to your body, you're not hurting anyone else, then I think you should have that autonomy. All right? Okay, guys. So that's all that I have for now. I will talk to you soon.